Hello, everybody. Welcome back, Francesca Varney, commonly known as Frankie. I'm thrilled to have Frankie back for part 2 of our 3-part series. We're going to do another one as well. Frankie's the founder of The Horse Within and does incredible work with therapy with horses and people. She's had an amazing journey of how she's created The Horse Within, and that was covered off in our first episode. So I welcome everyone to go back and have a look at that. She comes with a wealth of knowledge in this field, with her background in counselling and also equine therapies, which I'm just fascinated about. And she's currently sitting in her beautiful property down in South Gippsland, and I think the horses are fairly nearby. But in today's episode, we're going to be delving deeply into the healing of the horse. And I'm just seriously fascinated with this work. But welcome, Frankie. Thanks for coming back.
Thanks, Muzzy. So great to delve back in and talk today. Look forward to it.
So, the healing power of equines. I mean, everybody would be just wondering, what does that exactly mean? And my first question is, why horses?
That's a really good question. I just want to point out, every now and then I might have a milk truck blaze past. So that's the joys of being outside. But yes, I see my horses from here and they're all asleep at the moment, which is really beautiful. Why horses? Horses, I suppose, have been with humans for thousands of years throughout history. And they've been partners in so many ventures and adventures. We haven't always treated them right. That's absolutely for sure. But they've also been, I suppose, subconscious therapeutic partners for humans for a very long time. And symbolically, they represent so many different characteristics that we as humans strive for. They're so powerful, they're strong, but they're graceful. And through them just being in their bodies, in those beautiful bodies that they're in, they can evoke desires for more freedom or more connectedness in humans. And so it creates a really unique environment for the therapeutic process, not just for the therapeutic process, for the learning process as well. So in that exchange with the human, I suppose here was the milk truck. There's the size and their movement, and them being one of the, I think they're top of the list next to a couple of other animals in terms of their reactivity and the speed at which they can react. So we think a dog is fast, or a mouse is fast, or a cat's fast. A horse is 100 times faster in their reaction. And so that presents, I suppose, a risk for humans to interact with humans unless we're really aware of what's going on around us, of what's going around in ourselves, going on within ourselves, and really promotes heightened awareness and snaps humans out of the autopilot that we're often in. And so, I'm not talking about an anxious awareness where we're constantly fearful that something could happen, because we create an environment where the horses can express themselves freely. They have enough space. They live in a herd. They're not secluded. They've got enough water and food, and all their basic needs are met. I'm very lucky that I've got horses around me that haven't got a big trauma background themselves. So they're pretty free in their expression, and that creates safety in itself as well. But there is a heightened awareness that's required, and it's almost like you don't need to even often. Well, I point it out when I interact with people and bring them here into the paddock, and it's a safety guideline. But people will say at the end of the session, I was just naturally aware where I was in the space all the time, because the horse kind of demands that presence. But then there also another quality is their sensitivity, and we call it mirroring human emotions, although that's not their intent. They just do, right? They just are. But they always scan the other's energy, intend, if the actions match that intent, and they're always looking for congruence, because they need a read within a split second whether you're safe or you're not. So they search for congruence, and that provides an opportunity for us as humans to check in. Am I clear on what I'm asking? Is my intent clear? And do I then match that, follow up with an action that matches that? Yeah, so I could go on and on. There's so much more, but these are sort of some of the things that stand out for me.
I just love it. One of my questions was, how do the horses connect? So what do they show? Like physically, like what do they show in the paddock when someone
when someone wants to connect, or walks into the paddock and wants to connect? It's so well, horses living in a herd, with the natural dynamics that play out, they do showcase healthy relationships to us. So they can teach us about fairness and clear communication and expression of needs for space and resources, and not holding on to grudges, but just moving through conflict really quickly and then moving on, and that idea of really living in the present moment. So knowing that, and what I've shared before, why horses and their sensitivity, and then searching for congruence. When you step into the paddock and you want to meet the horse, the first thing is to, before you even get into their space, and I'm not just talking their physical body, but some people call it the heart bubble, or the energy center around them, and we all have that, I believe. And the horse's sort of energy is quite big, and when we sort of calm our nervous system through an out breath, and just grounding ourselves and setting the intent of, I want to meet you, I want to say hi, then we can really actually tune into this energy, and they will tune into ours as well. So I say to my clients, calm yourself through an out breath and grounding, and there's exercises we do beforehand, and then reach your hand out to the horse and let them approach you. Let them make a choice whether they do or don't want to meet you right now. And so usually what happens is the horse steps towards that hand, sniffs it, and through that interaction checks out what your energy might be, and if this all makes sense for them, if they can understand. And an example from a recent client stepping into the paddock, and I think they were still a little bit nervous, although we've done some grounding exercises, and maybe there was a little bit of, I don't want to embarrass myself. So they stepped towards the horse, let them sniff, but then straight away went to patting, and so hadn't waited for that decision or the consent of the horse that she wanted to be patted. So they kind of straight away went to patting, and my horse moved away and said, oh no, I didn't want to be patted. And that provided a beautiful opportunity for us to talk about making contact with humans and waiting for their response, and noticing, oh, I'm a little bit nervous, or I'm a little bit, scared, or whatever it might be, and just waiting for the response of, yeah, I want to interact with you, I'm keen. So that in itself, and with each other, horses do the same thing. So if one of them wants their back scratched, they will walk up to the other horse and signal that through gently tuning in. Hey, do you want contact? And reading their body signs, body language, ears, eyes, position of the head, position of the whole body. And if that suggests to them, or says to them, not suggests, but says to them, yep, I'm open, they might start scratching the back. And then the other horse might return that favor, and then they're in contact. But if the other horse doesn't return it, it's a sign of, no, actually, I'm not quite keen. I don't want to. And so then they can move away, as an example. Yeah. Does that make sense, Mossy?
It does make sense, because it's a real, in your work, I'm guessing here, and you can confirm how you introduce people. So you would have your programs, and then to come and work with you, you would obviously just not throw people in the paddock. So you would do some work around preparing them for their energy that they're taking into them. And then, like, what are the signs that the horse, do they twitch an ear? Do they how do they you know that the horse is actually receiving the energy of these people, or that the people aren't really quite ready? Do you then take the people out of the paddock, or do you work with them in the paddock to connect, to create that connection?
It's a really good question. And I think it talks about it. It's sort of that the answers lie in the type of therapy and the approaches that it's anchored in, and in the way we engage with the horses in this particular model. So I follow the EPI model, which is the Equine Psychotherapy Institute in Dalesford, and Meg Kirby has put this approach together through her learnings from across the world. And the thing that she said was always missing wherever she studied was this idea that she developed, and the way of being with horses, the I-thou relationship. And what that stands for is to see the horse as another sentient being. We're not better, we're not more superior. We are working in partnership and stepping into contact respectfully, noticing signs, this idea of consent. Do you want to interact? Do you want to work together? And reading the field. So taking the whole experience into account. My experience, how am I feeling right now? So for example, the thing that I've stopped doing is that if I've got half an hour in my lunch break and I quickly want to do some work with my young horse, that's the antidote to how horses want to interact and engage. They don't have a calendar. They don't have a schedule. They don't have a half an hour. So if I can't make time for whatever wants to evolve and however long it wants to take, then it's probably not a good idea to even begin. And that means for this hour of therapy or 90 minutes of a learning or coaching session, whatever it might be, we have to work with wherever the human is and wherever the horse is. So recently I had a client who was really keen to do some lead work, and so leading the horse and really learning how to do that, and through that explore her leadership capacity. And on the day she was a bit thrown. She had a phone call from a family member and got some concerning news, and work was overwhelming. And by the time she got to my place, she was just exhausted and frazzled. And so we ended up not even touching a horse during this session. And it was all about regulating her nervous system through observing the horses and how they do that. Because they picked up on her energy, they removed themselves. And so it was all about, preparing the space for her to become a bit more calmer and to move into her, what we call the window of tolerance. It's the emotional window or space where we can help process emotions, strong emotions in a healthy way, and to understand herself better through that. And so then she was just really standing sort of on the outside, observing the horses, and through that, calming, grounding, and really enjoying that feeling of, oh, I haven't felt like that for a long time. This is actually so good. So this intent that she had, and she came to me with, I want to lead a horse and explore my leadership, sort of moved a little bit to the side for another time when the time is right. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I'm guessing that hour and a half she had with you would have been just as effective, because you've gone into a deeper level of why there's this overwhelm and energy and things like that she was dealing with at the time. So that would have been just as valuable in your beautiful space down in South Gippsland with the horses.
And we had a really, you're so right, Mossy. And then we had a really interesting conversation sort of towards the end of the session about leadership from a place of a regulated nervous system and groundedness, which then a lot of questions were answered through that, not through the actual activity. But it was all next to each other, looking out into the paddock, and the horses starting to come back into our space as she became more calm.
Wow.
And this all provides information, data, stuff to talk about and to reflect on and to be curious about. And so, yeah.
When you're in the paddock with the people, so you've done your little bit of preparation work. I know that you sit in amongst where you are now, and you talk to people about the horses, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that people aren't riding the horses, so it's more just about the connection and the energy
on the ground.
Yeah. So I find that fascinating too, because people think horses, we're going to go horse riding.
We're going to go for a ride. Yeah. And it's not. And, it was actually a learning curve for me over the last 10 years or so, that I'd been raised, or I grew up thinking that through riding, I'd always had a love for animals and especially horses, but I took the route of riding horses and lots and daily, and so for me to live with horses and to figure out, how am I going to become a herd member here, and how am I going to create a space where we all feel safe with each other? That all had to happen on the ground. It was not through riding. And riding, I still hugely enjoy that, but I've started to really love the interactions on the ground, and as in the preparation for this, there's a bit of sort of education about horses and horse wisdom in that too. I just wanted to add that. But I'm not going to tell people, well, this is Stout, she's always like that, and he's a bit of like that, and try to label my horses, because it's all in the experience of whatever wants to be. So if I preempt, don't touch Stout there, she doesn't really like that, then I take away this potential experience of my client to figure out, what does this horse like? How soft or how hard does she like to be patted? Which spot does she really like me scratching? And how do I know that? What are the subtle signs that she's going to give me to kind of let me know, I like this? So we really slow everything down and become really observing and curious, and then reflect on, for me, that felt good. That was a nice connection that we had. So, yeah.
It just sounds very, very calming. It just sounds that if you've got work to do within yourself, or that need to remove overwhelm, or being too stressed, or I do a lot of work with children as well, and carers, and so that would the essence of that, and the workshops you do is very similar concept, right?
Yes.
So you would get groups of people down there, and then it's all about calming the nervous system and connecting with the horses. You're in the paddock. You're in the paddock with them, aren't you? So are you sort of obviously very calmly calling out the behaviour as it's happening?
I'm not so sure about calling out. I think because this type of work is steeped in Gestalt therapy and in phenomenological approaches, it's really about meeting the client and the horse and the environment in the present moment. And so therefore, for me to interpret or it can be sort of unhelpful to the process, because really what we want to achieve is that it all unfolds in the moment for the client, and I'm a fellow traveler. So for me, it's a sort of curiously stepping into, what was that like for you? Or what do you think happened there? Or what's your best guess how Stout felt in that moment? And really unpicking what wants to unfold in the moment. So I think it's that's probably a good sort of way to think about it. And with groups, I will ask each group member, so what was that like for you when you saw so and so do that? Or what do you think happened for her? Or what do you think happened for them in that moment? Or is that something you experience in your day-to-day, and relating it back to actually that's something that we do in our team. We kind of we kind of expect the other person to know what we're talking about, and then we get a bit grumpy if they don't understand. So all of this sort of provides when I work with groups, it's not necessarily in a therapeutic way. Although with families and siblings, it might be. But when I have corporate groups here, or teams of carers, it's more in a learning space. So it's really it lifts it out of sort of the deeper therapeutic work, and then we might talk about or it becomes more of a coaching conversation. But there's still the experiential learning in the moment through the experience, and letting that sort of change you.
Love it. You've given me a fantastic example of that lady that came thinking it was going to be about leadership, and it ended up being about just calming herself down and changing the energy that she was exuding. There are other examples. Do you have another example of a benefit, like what you've watched or observed happening in the paddock, or in particular maybe child, or like anything?
Oh, so many examples. Every session is really special. Hugely enjoying the work, because the change that comes about in people and people's self-awareness, perception of self, challenging their belief systems, or noticing certain patterns in their behavior. And so recently I had a woman here who wanted to find a new life partner, and she started noticing that she was stuck in a bit of a rut, and she was attracting the same kind of person over and over, and she didn't want to be with that person and personality anymore. But she was really stuck in she was saying that, look, I don't sometimes even know what I want anymore. And then I hear myself say things and they don't seem true anymore, but I don't know what to do. So a really simple exercise that sort of presented itself was to tell one of our horses to gently move out of the way. Gently, but really with a specific request. So the horse was grazing and she was sort of coming a little bit too close. And so I showed my client how walking up greeting, stating the intent, I would like you to move over a bit, and then gently pressing on the shoulder and neck, and the horse stepped over and kept grazing. And she walked up and followed that through in exact that same way. And she'd never touched a horse in her life before, but she felt safe enough to do that, and she had clear instructions. She followed through, and the horse did that. And she said, "Thank you." She turned around and she was beaming, and she's like, "I just had a realization. I think I get so muddled up in my thoughts and all the things that are going on in my body when I'm trying to connect, that sometimes I don't even connect with my needs. And then what comes out is even more confusing. And then I get really grumpy when people don't understand me." Mm. So, that was one of the moments where we're going, "Oh, yeah, so interesting." Or when I have children here, they're usually really playful. And sometimes I have children here who are normally quite high energy and find that quite challenging in their day-to-day. So we talk about engaging with a lower energy and with a calmer energy, and then we might go into the round yard and build obstacles, and that's when the higher energy can come back to life. So they start to understand the difference between them and what impacts that has on other human beings. And there's endless examples of moments where people were able to cry tears they hadn't cried from a grief that's many, many years ago, or had a newborn understanding about something they've been telling themselves, and that became unhelpful over the years. So many, Mozzie.
Oh, this work is incredible, Frankie. It seriously is. And I'm, just fascinated by it. What I would love to do is talk about your program really quickly. So you do your work, obviously, down in South Gippsland on your property with your horses. Mm-hmm. And what sort of program? One-on-one coaching, and what else are you doing?
So I've got the individual therapeutic sessions, equine assisted counselling. They can be 60 or 90 minutes, depending on what the client would like to work on. For families, I usually do 90-minute sessions as well. In the learning and coaching space, and working with individuals, that can be an hour or 90 minutes as well. But then the groups that come and do programs, that's usually sort of between 2 and 5 hours, depending, and it's all customizable. But there's 3 programs that I've got at the moment, and one is about becoming horse and embracing the horse within, and that is a lot about calming the nervous system, becoming more self-aware, and what it means to step into relationship and create trust. So that's for example, team building events. Then I've got the Care for Carer workshop, Care for Carers, which is a short program that carers can come and do, quarterly or half yearly, to reestablish, to manage stress and overwhelm, and reestablish a sort of a calmness, but also a practice in how to regulate their own nervous system in their stressful day-to-day. So that's for, nursing teams, teachers, aged care facilities, anyone in the caring space. But, even individual carers can come here and do that work. And then there is a specific leadership development program, Leading Self, Leading Others, that talks about, leading ourselves first and becoming really aware of ourselves and our strengths and our challenges and growth edges. and then from there, being able to lead others. So they're all on my website, on thehorsewithin.com.au, but I'm very open to customizing to the client's needs as well, because it needs to be fit for them, but we've got a structure that we can apply. And
fantastic. And you're incredible, and you have a great energy. So you know that people would get down there and just enjoy the space and the horses and the energy and the work, and a bit of time out of their busy days just to create the calm and all of that sort of stuff as well.
And the horse within, sorry, Mozzie, that the horse within means, so that the name of it means that you can take that, because it's an experience, it's not a cognitive learning exercise. It's you're experiencing with your whole body and all of your senses. So you can take that into any setting. You can sit in a Zoom meeting and you might feel a little bit wobbly, and you can tune back into this experience. And that's what I mean by finding and embracing that horse within. So that's what I'm most excited about.
I love the name, actually. It was a very, very good name. All of that's covered in our first episode when we talk about, your background, how you went, your corporate background, and then, becoming, or creating your property and the horses and all how you got to that. So, and the creation of the name. I'm going to wind up there, but I think that's a lot of information on, the work you do and why horses, and the healing component of the work you do. Thank you so much for coming on again. And we're going to join up again because I want to go into more detail on your workshops and your actual programs, but we'll do that in the next
beautiful
that we have. Lovely.
Thank you so much for the opportunity and your interest.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll speak soon. Bye.
Speak soon. Take care. Thank you, Mozzie.